Ladies, young ladies and gentlemen, good morning or good evening to all of you. It's a pleasure for me to be with you again after a very eventful weekend. There were political activities, cultural activities, but now everything is okay. Let's continue with the news, international current events. In international news, Germany has just shown its true colors to Ukraine. The brand new German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, who appeared like an angel for Ukraine, who right after taking office immediately traveled to Ukraine to show his unwavering support for the country. With many announcements, but he has just revealed his true face to Ukraine. And if Volodymyr Zelensky is smart, now is the time for him to try to negotiate peace because things are not looking good for Ukraine. You can be allies and still not like each other. That's the big question I'm asking myself. And maybe you'll find the answer for me by the end of the video conference. Merz, Friedrich Merz, the man over there, the German Chancellor, is outright opposed to Ukraine joining the European Union. He is completely opposed. He is against it. It's surprising. At first, it was Hungary, Viktor Orban, who was opposed. After that, which other country was it? We have two countries that are really opposed, that are within the union, but are completely against it, and have always been treated as countries that are more in line with Vladimir Putin's way of thinking. That's what has often been said, that they are in line with Vladimir Putin's mindset. They're there like spies working for Vladimir Putin. What's the other one's name? Robert Fico from Slovakia. So we have Hungary, we have Robert Fico from Slovakia. Hungary is Viktor Orban. They have always been radically opposed to Ukraine joining NATO. In fact, we even saw that these two were the ones who decided to go to the party that was held in Moscow, the big celebration that took place very recently. I even forgot the date, May 9th. The May 9th celebration, the commemoration of Russia's victory over Nazism, over Nazi Germany. But against all expectations, Friedrich Merz has just joined the two of them. As for the other two, it's understandable. We can understand because both gentlemen have always opposed Ukraine's accession to NATO. These two gentlemen are considered to be people who do not want what is best for Ukraine, who are there advocating for Russia's interests. That we can understand. But for Germany, it's surprising, given Friedrich Merz's commitment, which is extremely strong. He is extremely committed to and supportive of Ukraine. Why is he taking such a position? That's what we're going to talk about in this video conference. We will go into more detail. But before we continue, I humbly ask you to share this video conference as much as possible. It needs to be shared in every possible group. Be sure to give it lots of likes and don't forget to leave your opinion in the comments. And if you're new here, if this is your first time coming across my video conference, I ask you to click subscribe. Subscribe so you won't miss any of my video conferences. Let's dive a little deeper. It says, no fast-track membership for Kiev. He doesn't want it. And read this. The official information tells us this. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has once again clearly rejected Ukraine's hopes for rapid accession to the European Union as long as the conflict continues. This is what the media outlet Express reports. This was during a joint press conference with Romanian President Klaus Iohannis in Berlin last Friday. The German political leader Friedrich Merz stated that Ukraine's accession to the European Union could only happen after the end of the military conflict and following a multi-year, step-by-step process. So, the conflict must end first. There must be a multi-year, step-by-step process that Ukraine must follow, and so on. Here is what he said. We haven't yet seen Ukraine's reaction, but this is what you would call witchcraft in broad daylight. This is witchcraft in broad daylight, because it's impossible to understand. He who is about to send Taurus missiles to Ukraine, no, he refused to send Taurus missiles, but he's about to send tanks. How many tanks? several tanks to Ukraine. He even pressured America to take part of its stock of military equipment for Patriot systems to send to Ukraine, with Germany footing the bill. So Germany is contributing to the continuation of the conflict. Germany wants the conflict to continue because Friedrich Merz has always said that Putin is a threat to Europe, that Russia is a threat to Europe. And he said very recently that even if negotiations are necessary, Ukraine should be in a position of strength. So Russia must be crushed. Ukraine must be put in a position of strength. How is it possible that this man, who is pushing Ukraine to continue the war, then says the war must end so that Ukrainian Territory Council, that we can start thinking about Ukraine joining NATO and at least the European Union? I was going to say, how is that possible? You then understand that as long as the conflict continues, it's a golden opportunity for them to test their new weapons, to test their strike capabilities. Ukraine is becoming like, unfortunately, Ukraine is becoming like a military testing ground. That's what it is, unfortunately. Unfortunately, this is the situation we find ourselves in. Otherwise, how can you claim that you love a state? You don't want this state to be able to join your organization. Yet, Ukraine's accession to NATO, to the European Union, would be a huge advantage for Europe itself, and especially for Ukraine. It benefits Ukraine. The European Union is not a military alliance. When it comes to NATO, that can be understood. We have Article 5 of the Atlantic Charter, which states that any country that is a member of NATO and is attacked, NATO itself is also considered attacked. We can understand why NATO is currently refusing to admit Ukraine. Because obviously, if they accept Ukraine, that's one of Vladimir Putin's red lines. But the European Union is not a military alliance. So what is the real reason? Why do people say that they can't join the European Union? Well, if it's because they're still in conflict, then what measures need to be taken to bring the conflict to an end? They're not doing it. They're not doing it. On the contrary, they're taking actions that allow the conflict in Ukraine to continue. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that was the top story in international news. Please share it as much as possible. I'll be back with more news for you shortly. This was the voice of your one and only samurai.